The podcast you are about to listen to contains at least one of the following: strong language, disturbing topics, abusive opinions, generally things that aren't appropriate for little kids or overly sensitive people. So, if any of that stuff's going to get your nose out of joint, this is your chance to turn it off. Welcome to I Had to Say It, the podcast where I talk about things that I feel need talking about, and sometimes they're not getting the attention they deserve. And your feelings, they're not under consideration. Hey everybody, welcome to a special Friday drop episode of I Had to Say It. If you recall, a few weeks back I talked about how I wanted to start having more guests on the show, and this is going to be the first part of the first guest since I've said that. Now, this is a returning guest, somebody who has been on the show before. This is my buddy Cody, host of the Dungeons and Podcasts podcast, which is on a hiatus for the present. But yeah, we had a nice little talk. We sat down and talked about this, that, and the other. As every time I've tried to record with Cody, there was just absolutely bonkers amounts of technical issues, but eventually we got it done, and we had a pretty good long talk. So this is part one. Part two will be dropping in another week or so, either next week or every other week. I haven't decided just yet, because I may, depending if I can get some stuff coordinated, we may be dropping a live episode next Friday, and if that's the case, then we will drop the second part of this the Friday after that. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoy it, and go ahead and listen to what we had to say. I don't know if I mentioned it at all in any of the channels we're in, but yeah, we had a fire here back in November.
Oh,
our shed caught on fire under slightly mysterious circumstances. You know, they ruled the cause of the fire undetermined, but where the fire was, there was no electrical, no gas, nothing combustible. That's where the fire started, was in that corner of the shed. Now, our shed was a fancy shed, though. It did have water and electric and gas. It was basically like a miniature barn. It was a very glorified shed. It actually happened like literally like that weekend prior. We had just put away like all the, you know, all the shit for winter, all the furniture, the patio furniture cushions, and like all the shit from the pool, you know,
right.
Pump, filter, hoses, pool vacuum, all the chemicals, all that shit were in there, and
all your bougie stuff.
No, it's not bougie. We're Walmart fancy, son. But
dude, that don't matter. It's the middle class. That's bougie now, man.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, so we put all our fancy shit out there, and like I said, that was like Saturday, and I made sure the furnace was safe and the vents were clear on it and everything, because, like I said, it's a little tiny shed. It used to be, because years and years and years ago, my wife's mother-in-law, my wife's mom, used to breed these toy poodles, right? And that was her like grooming shed. So that's why it had the water and the gas, so she could have the hot water heater, and it had a little furnace on it to keep the puppies warm in the winter when they were out there. Like, 'cause she would groom them and give them their trim their nails and cut their hair and all that shit before she sold them. And
right.
It had a little dog run attached to the back. Now, we had taken the dog run out years ago, and there was a little dog door that went to the dog run, and I had boarded it over on the outside. And it kind of looks like that's where the fire started. And the board that was boarded over it was like laying out in the yard, but we couldn't tell if that was from somebody prying it off and lighting a fire inside the door, because it was boarded on the inside and the outside with a piece of insulation stuffed in the hole. So when the fire department was done, the outside cover was blown out into the yard. And I'm like, I don't know if that was somebody pulled it off and lit the fire in there, but that's also where the like most concentrated burning stuff was in that corner. So it's like, we think somebody might have lit the fire.
Yeah, that's like, that would really bother me.
Oh, it bugs the shit out of me. And it was just kind of ironic, because I actually had taken that day off because I had a doctor's appointment like at 11:30, And that I hate it when they do that shit, because it's not like you can just take a half day of work, because what am I going to do? I'm going to go into work for 3 hours, go to the doctor, which is like an hour away from where I work, drive back,
Right.
and then get there for another 2.5 hours. Like, nah, fuck that. So I took the whole day off. And I literally was like just getting home from my doctor's appointment, and I tried to pull into my street, and like the cops have my street blocked off because on our side of the street there's only 3 houses on our block. So I'm like, okay, fine, something weird's going on. I'll just go around to the other side of the block and come up that way. And I pull around to the other side of the block, and I can see the fire truck is sitting in my driveway, and I'm like, the fuck? And the cops are trying to close the other end of the block off too, but I'm like, I'm a pragmatist. I'm just like, yeah, no, I need to get to that house. So I just drove through my own yard, and the cops are like, what are you doing? What are you doing? I'm like, my house.
I live here.
Mi casa, damn it. And then they're like, and then one cop's like, what are you doing? I said, I'm going over to the house so I can turn off the gas to the building that's on fire. And they went, there's gas to that thing? Go, fucking go. I was like, yeah. And so I whip into the driveway, get out of my car, and I'm running around to the back of the house, and the fire department's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm going in the house to turn off the gas and the electric to the outbuilding. Well, fuck, there's gas? I'm like, yeah, don't go in there until you see me. So I ran in the house, turned off the gas at the main shutoff because we had a shutoff that just went right out, out of the house into the ground outside. So I turned the gas off to the barn, flipped the breakers for the electricity that went out to it, and I came back upstairs. I'm like, okay, you guys can go in now. It should be safe. There's like eight canisters of propane in there too, by the way, so be careful. No, actually, that's kind of the cool thing because it was like camping fuel. It turns out they have a pressure relief thing on them, so they won't explode. It like melts and just it turns into a blowtorch.
Well, that's pretty cool still.
Oh, yeah.
Still do it. Blowtorches are plenty dangerous.
Yeah, but now, fortunately, they were actually on the opposite side of the building from where the fire started. Just so I was like, okay, well, they really didn't get. I mean, all the safety valves popped on them, but none of them even had scorch marks on them. So I think it just vented all the propane into the air. But yeah, so that kind of sucked, and and then with dealing with the insurance company and everything, it took like. We finally managed to break ground on the new building because like the village wouldn't let us rebuild it the way it was because they said the footprint on it was too big to be a shed because village limits for a shed are 10 foot by 10 foot and the existing footprint on it was 12 by 14. Plus,
what would you have to call it at that footage?
That's an outbuilding or a garage. They actually don't have anything for that square footage, so. And then it was also the thing is it was a story and a half because it had like a upper level that was just like a kind of like a loft.
Like what the fuck is like the actual difference between an outbuilding and a shed?
Taxes. So
fair.
Yeah.
Fair.
So we're like they're like well and it can only be it can only be as high as the house at the most or something like that. I forget, but they were like, yeah, you can't build it a story and a half tall either. You can't rebuild it the same height it was. So we were looking at losing like a shit ton of storage space. And my in-laws, who are also my landlords, were like, well, that's not okay. We don't like that. We're going to do a garage instead. So instead of rebuilding at the existing size, we wound up going with a one-story tall 20 by 22 car and a half garage instead.
Nice.
So it's like this massive like new building is out there now, and it's like, yeah, I like them apples. But it was also a massive inconvenience because we had to haul everything we had to haul all the burnt shit out and document everything for the insurance claim, like because we got X amount of dollars for the building and then a different claim for the contents. And it's like the building was like my in-laws' stuff more so. Like that's obviously they own the property. It's their building. It's their insurance. 90% of what was in there was ours. Like all the pool shit, all the patio furniture, my golf clubs were out there. Like just tons of stuff that was like ours.
Right.
And that was all gone, melted, destroyed, wrecked. So it's like, yeah, I mean, we had a lawnmower and a rototiller out there that were my father-in-law's and, a couple shovels and all this like little random shit. And so we drag all this stuff out and it's like, well, all the pool shit was a giant ball of plastic after that because, it's Like I said,
Right, yeah.
it's not fancy. It's Walmart fancy. So yeah, all that shit is made out of plastic and all melted together. I was actually kind of pissed because the pool vacuum was like literally brand new. We just bought that fucker because the old one broke. So it didn't even have a full season on it for use. And I was mad as hell. I'm like, I just bought that fucking thing. It was like $400 fucking dollars.
Yeah, that just means more money for the claim.
Oh yeah, no, that's exactly. I was like, you know what? This is what we're claiming. And they, oh look, they discontinued this one, so a comparable replacement is actually $600. That's what we're claiming. So, but yeah, so I do have a shiny new vacuum now, and new pump, new filter, all that stuff. But like, I had literally just bought all the chemicals for like because I that's during COVID, all that shit got really hard to find. And I found a like bulk outlet for chlorine and stabilizer and all that shit for the pool. So I had like literally a 50-pound pail of chlorine tablets and I had like $600 worth of fucking pool chemicals in there that I just bought, and I'm like, oh, that hurts my soul. So, but it all went on the insurance claim. I mean, my share of the claim check was like $7,000. So.
Hell yeah, you should have asked for like 12.
Well, no, that's the thing, because the check they gave us was actual cash replacement value, but some of that stuff's depreciated because it's older. Like my golf clubs were older, so they gave me $300 for my golf club, but the actual value is like $900. So I bought a $900 set of golf clubs, and then they're going to pay me the difference when I send them the receipt. So I actually get another check coming too, which is kind of cool. But it's also a massive inconvenience because.
Right.
We had to go, like, had to replace all this shit that got burned up in the fire. And we had nowhere to store it because the place we were storing it also got burned up in the fucking fire. So we had all this stuff piled up in our garage. Like, I haven't parked in my garage in like 2 fucking years. So we piled all this stuff up in the garage that's already attached to the house. And I was like, okay, cool. They're getting ready to break ground, blah, 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 blah. This, 6 or 8 weeks ago, end of May, I'd say probably beginning of May, actually, when we decided we were going to, I'm like, okay, it's warm enough out now. Let's put all the chemicals in the pool. We can set the pool up, hook the filter up, all this shit, and get all this shit out of the house or out of the garage so that'll at least free up some space. So we put all the chemicals in, we open up the pool, hook up the filters, the pumps, all that shit. And we finally get the go-ahead from the insurance company to get all the permits to start construction on the new building. And we go down to get the permits, and they're like, we don't have your survey on file. Like, the fuck you mean you don't have our survey on file? You got to get the property resurveyed. I'm like, okay, great. And I tell my father-in-law, I'm like, tell the surveyor not to put the pool on the survey because it's not considered a permanent structure, so it doesn't have to be on there. I'm like, I don't have to deal with any bullshit related to the pool. Just have them mark where the existing building is and where the new building's going, because that's all they need to fucking worry about. And they didn't listen to me. So the surveyor put the pool on the survey anyway. And so when they went down to the health department to get the demolition permits, because we have to go to the health department to get the demolition permits because we're on a septic system, not sewer. So they're like, oh, yeah, this pool here is encroaching on your septic drain field by 10 feet. Like, you're fucking kidding me. Oh, no, it could cause the field to collapse and ruin your septic tank. That pool's been there for 17 fucking years, lady. It's not going to cause any problems. Well, it can't be there. So, literally, the day after I put all the chemicals in the pool to open it up, they tell me I got to take that bitch down. I'm like, oh, you got to be fucking kidding me. And they're like, yeah, the inspector's coming by on Monday, so it has to be down by Monday.
Fucking city government.
Fuck. Yeah, so I drain the pool. My father-in-law, my wife, and I, we throw we got one of those pump covers to pump the water off before you take the cover off at the end of the winter, so you don't get all kinds of nasties in your pool. Mm-hmm. So we wind up throwing that bitch in there because the filter side is on the wrong side of the pool to pump it out into like the ditch, and because the pump is on the side closer to the house, so the cord could reach the plug. So it's like we can't use that bitch to drain it, so we got to use this little tiny Hercules pump that we threw in there and ran for like 36 hours straight, and wind up draining the fucking pool, take the thing down, take the frame down, take the deck down, move everything into like a pile over by the house. in 2 days. And then Monday, the inspector comes by. He's like, yeah, looks fine. I don't see any problems here. It doesn't look like there's any damage to the ground. It doesn't look like the tiles are affected in your drain field. You're fine. You're good to go. Signing off on it. But you can't put the pool back up here. Just based on that, you got to move it. I'm like, okay, fine. So I go down to the village hall, and I'm like, all right, we need to move our pool. I need to know exactly what I need to get from you guys so I do not ever have to talk to you again once this is over. And they're like, well, it's an above-ground pool, and here's your permits, and you need to either have it in a fence, which is how it's been for the last 17 years, but to move it off the drain field, we have to move it outside of the fenced-in part of the fucking yard. Because the way our property is shaped, it's kind of like a pie wedge, right?
Mm-hmm.
And down off the side of the house, it comes down to a point down at the end of the block, and it's way too narrow based on zoning and everything, where they won't let us put any buildings that way.
Right.
But technically, the pool will fit in there. But I'm like, so I'm starting to get quotes to like get a new fence put down to that direction from the house, and it was like $5,000 to put a new fence in. So I'm like, yep, won't be doing that. So we got one of those little fences that attaches to the top of the pool and hooks to the frame, and then I had to build around the top of the deck that the ladder's attached to. I had to build a closing gate and a 4-foot tall fence around that, and I've been really busy the last few weeks. and so we come to find out, they're like, yeah, so about this pump, you got to have the electric. It has to be this deep. And da-da-da. I'm like, well, no. It's not like a hardwired pump. It just plugs into the outlet in the side of the house. It's got a GCFI outlet. And like every time the inspector comes by, we have the same conversation. It's not a permanent fixture. It plugs into an outlet. And they're like, yeah, does that reach? I'm like, it's like 6 feet short. I'm going to use an extension cord. It'll be fine. Nope, can't do that. Motherfucker. So I wind up having to dig a 40-foot-long trench out from the house, 18 inches deep, and that would not in itself be that big a deal because, a normal person would rent a trencher and just do it. Problem is, here, it's all, after you get more than like 6 inches down, it's all clay and rocks. So, I mean, the drainage is great. We never worry about flooding, but no, digging around here fucking sucks, which is why when I was like, I'm not going to put the fence up myself. I'm going to pay somebody to put a fence in because I put our existing fence in and fuck that. Never again. So we wind up finally get the spot picked where we're going to put the pool. We get everything flagged and marked and inspected, dig the trench. The inspector comes out, looks at the electrical that I did. Now, fortunately, they were like, you have to have an electrician hook it up. I was like, does an electrician have to do all the fucking work or just hook the wire to the fuse box? And they're like, well, we need an electrician to sign off that it's properly installed. I'm like, all right, bet. So I go to the guy that's doing the electrical work on the new garage. I'm like, hey, bro, come here. If I throw you like an extra $50, will you come over here and hook this wire into the fucking circuit breaker panel for me? And he's like, that's it? I said, yeah, that's it. I said, I got to put an outlet out by the pool. So I said, I'll dig the trench. I'll run the conduit. I'll run the wire. I'll make sure everything's up to code. You just have to actually hook the fucking wire. And he's like, yeah, dude, no problem. I got you. I didn't even wind up having to pay him. I just gave him 2 extra bottles of water. He's like, no, man, it looks good. He's like, you know what you're doing? I'm like, yeah, I'm cheap. I know how to do a lot of shit. I got YouTube. YouTube University, bro. I ain't paying for nothing if I don't have to. Now, on the upside, actually, my kid turned up, him and his buddy, like the weekend I was going to dig the trench. He came over during the week for something else because he was like, I think he just wanted to stop and see how the garage was going. So he comes home and he's like, what are you doing? Because I was outside like marking with a can of spray paint where the trench was going to go. I'm like, I'm planning my weekend. He's like, what do you got to do? I said, I got to do electric for the pool. I said, it's got to be 18-inch deep trench. It's going to follow this line out to there. And he's like, well, why don't you move it over to here? Because that would look better. I'm like, because it's a 40-foot trench and it's got to go over. I'm like, that's where the pool's going. That's where the deck's going. So that's where I want the plug to go. Because I put all the pumps and all that shit under the deck now. Just so it looks neater. Plus, nobody can fuck with it that way. And, yeah, so I come home Friday from work, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to play some Sea of Thieves. And I went in my room and played some Sea of Thieves. And this was at, 7:30, and I played till about 9:30, and I take my headphones off when I'm done playing, and I'm like, what the fuck is all that noise out in the yard? I'm like, hear all this racket, and I'm like, there's a bar like a block and a half away from where I live, and there's the degenerates kind of, tend to, and during the nice weather, sometimes they'll straggle into my yard, and I was like, please tell me they're not out there fucking with all that stuff that's piled up from. But yeah, so I like I said, I hear all this racket. I'm thinking it's the fucking local tweakers out there fucking with my pool or something, like stealing the frame or whatever. I'm like, you got to be fucking kidding me. And seeing as I may live in Illinois, but this is still America, I grab a gun and go outside to go see what's going on. Like, if there are tweakers stealing my shit, they're gonna really not be happy about the outcome. And I get out there, and there's my kid and a buddy, his fucking digging this trench, and they must have been digging pretty much from like right after I started playing the game, because they were like 25 feet out from the house already, and I was like, holy shit. I mean, it's good to be young, but shit.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, I'm gonna make you guys dinner or something one of these days, because thanks, you just saved me a shit ton of work.
Right. Yeah.
And then then
Fuck digging.
yeah, I ran all the electric and all that shit and hooked everything up, and then filled the ditch back in, and it's everything's working out now. The pool's finally set up. I mean, it's only the second weekend of August, but Mama finally got her pool, so she's happy. And so it gets her off my neck a little bit. And I was like, how you been?
Oh, good. Just working. Let's see. Uh, fuck. Been at this plant for fucking ever, it seems.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, like, first day checking into a hotel in Michigan was May 22nd. And other than like the week off and 2 holidays, and I spent like an average of 3 days home. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Like, I've just been up here.
your ass has been in Michigan this whole time.
Yeah, forever. And yeah, it has not gone good for the plant to have me here. MDOT, Michigan Department of Transportation, really likes having me here
Yeah.
because I'm like, I don't fuck around with the plant. Like, I hold them to the right shit.
Well, that's a plus. I mean, probably not for them, but fuck them. Do your job right.
Yeah, definitely not for them. I mean, look, I got a whole day, like, not just the beams I was responsible for, but like another project for somebody else. Got a whole day's worth of beams rejected because they wanted to pour in the rain. That also resulted in their quality control manager getting fired because he wouldn't lie about it on the official paperwork.
Oh, geez.
Um, and let's see. Yesterday, I wouldn't stamp a beam for shipping because there's a crack on it. And they're like, well, what do we do? And I was like, I'm going to email the engineer of the project. It's up to him what you do. And they're like, oh, okay. And then they're like, we're just going to send it to the job site. And I was like, you do whatever you want to do. And as soon as it left the job site, it was no longer my responsibility. So I was like, so they sent an NCR to my boss, and my boss was like, no, it's not ours anymore. It's there. You got to talk to somebody else.
Oops. Looks like y'all fucked up.
Yeah, so they have like a new quality control manager. And he was asking me the other day, he was like, I get the sense that they like kind of like want me to like lie about some things. And I was like, yeah, man, if you want to hear something from me, it would be get the fuck out. And he was like, really? And I was like, yeah. But then today the motherfucker lied to me this morning. So now I don't trust him. So fuck him.
Well, that's no fun.
No, I trust one person at that fucking plant. It's a QC technician. And I only trust him because I know he won't lie. Like, he may not tell me the truth, but he'll answer with I can't or I won't answer that, and that tells me what I need to know. Whereas everybody else will give you bullshit.
Yeah, that's never good. I mean,
Yeah. And
particularly in your line of work, I don't see how that's really
well,
a good thing.
so cracks, concrete cracks. It happens. Okay. Uh, for beams that are subject to de-icing and freeze-thaw cycles, which these beams are, because they're in Michigan.
Yeah.
Uh, any crack larger than 0.007 inches, so like 10/100,000, so 7 thousandths of an inch. Okay,
Yeah.
anything larger than that has to be epoxy injected to make sure it doesn't grow when it gets picked up, because it's going to get picked up at least 2 more times. Uh, these motherfuckers are rubbing over it with, like, they're allowed to repair bug holes, which are like these small holes that can, the largest size it can be is 1.5 inches. If it's larger than that, they have to actually submit a nonconformance report. But anyway, they're rubbing cracks with that material, which is not what you're supposed to do. And basically, like, I've asked them to quit rubbing those like that, like, because it's not the proper procedure. No one's told them to do that. They're doing it to hide the fact that they're having cracks. And like, they're like, no, we're not. So today I basically just escalated it up to MDOT. I was like, hey, like, I'm tired of this, of them hiding this shit, because I can't tell you if there are cracks or aren't cracks there, and that's a problem because no one's looking at it for cracks from a quality standpoint. Not
Yeah.
their quality people, and they're not letting me look at it. So that's an issue. So hopefully these guys get shut down. I really don't like this plant. I like being in Michigan because I can, like, get hella good weed, but I don't like this plant.
Yeah. That's well, I mean, at least you found something good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, I mean, bro. Let's see. Uh, let's see. Let
Mm.
me turn that so you can read it.
It's a little fuzzy. Come a little more towards you. There we go. Okay. Cool. Yeah.
Shit's fucking great, dude. This shit's fucking great.
Well, that's good. I'm happy.
I mean, I got gummy edibles over here. I got edibles that are like Kit Kats. I got fucking 4 more of these bad boys.
Well, I mean, it's important to have something to keep you occupied. I mean,
Yeah.
hanging out in a hotel
See,
room's got to get a little blah after a while.
yeah, because I brought the Switch. I left the PlayStation and the VR with Sarah. I wish I had it.
Yeah.
You know, I'd be having a lot more fun with it than with the Switch. Just because, like, the Switch, I can't even watch, like, the options are Hulu and YouTube for watching shit.
Ugh.
And I found that I don't really enjoy watching cable unless it's like a show that I want to watch, like, if like maybe like a Master Chef or a Lego Masters. Like,
Yeah.
okay, I'll watch that on cable, but I just as easily watch it on Hulu. So
Yeah, I don't watch. I could. Oh shit! Sorry, I couldn't tell you the last time I watched something on regular fucking TV. I mean,
you can't be on it. You'll make me do it. You've been drinking that chamomile?
no. Actually, this is a vanilla chai, so it has caffeine. I'm I don't know. Day's catching up with me. Been
I
outside
got
all day and stayed up a little too late
so
last night.
I know for a fact that one Reaper is pretty much ready to go. There's like a little spot on it that's orange, but I don't know what would be the best way to mail those.
Well, honestly, for something like that, I would probably say dry them first.
Yeah,
Because if you're shipping them, you run the risk of temperature abuse and shit like that, making them start to rot. God forbid something happens where they get lost in translation somewhere.
Some, I mean, anyone that tries to eat it would be very, very, very
Yeah,
hurt.
they would be sorry afterwards. But now I was thinking more like if it fell off a package sorter and slipped under something for like a month, it'd be like, he's shipping biohazard material.
Yep.
You know, I mean, I don't know. I'd have to look into it.
Oh.
That's
All right. Well,
high
that
nugget.
thing it said. He said, "My crew is big and it keeps getting bigger. That's because Jesus Christ is my."
Oh yeah, I've heard that one.
Yeah, you never have to finish it. It's just funny because everyone finishes it in their heads.
Yep. High nugget. So anyway, now that we're like 45 minutes in, what did you anything particular you wanted to talk about today, or just
Yeah. All right.
all
So,
right, cool. Well, here let me just do the little intro thing so I know where to start the fucking episode. And so, hey everybody, welcome to another episode of I Had to Say It, another one of those wonderful guest episodes that seem to do so well in the numbers. And joining me today for second or third time, third time, but the actual second aired episode because the one got all corrupted, I believe.
yeah, right. Okay, well, now it seems to be fixed.
Okay, yeah, it seems to be clearing up now. Okay.
What?
Of course, as soon as you start the
If it
actual
can go
episode, things
wrong,
go
it will.
sideways.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
I was going sideways before. Like, we'd be talking, and then it would be like, oh, hey, can you hear me? What? No. Can you hear me? What? No. No.
yes.
No.
For all you wonderful listeners, yes, it's been an adventure thus far. But yeah, Cody is the host and dungeon master of Dungeons and Podcasts, and the show is taking a slight hiatus at the moment due to real life doing what it does. But I'm sure it'll get back to things eventually.
A generous usage of the word slight. Yeah. Started a new job, and it, been on the road quite a bit. Didn't have space. Space is no longer the issue, though. So now it's just being home, sitting down and editing. Because I have some episodes that are just sitting there ready to come out. Well, not ready, but they will be once they get edited and all the sound effects and all that groovy stuff. Because we got done recording at least the Rick and Morty one with the Wait What trio.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So
that's cool.
there's that.
It's just a matter of finding time to get to things.
Yeah, it's it's getting out of Michigan.
Yeah, I could see how that would kind of put a crimp on getting that stuff done. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could buy a laptop at some point.
yeah, and that's just more shit to haul around with you.
Very true. Very true.
Not that I got a lot of room to talk. I was looking at iPads last week, so.
Well, I mean, laptops really aren't that bad. I saw like an Alienware, which I know that you're paying more for the name on that, but it wasn't even $800. So
Yeah, well, no, I mean,
pretty reasonable.
at least their machines used to be solid. I don't know. I haven't even looked at one in years, but.
Right. I think they're owned by Dell now, so that kind of makes me hesitant. But
yeah, dude, you're getting a Dell.
dude, you're going to hell.
Well, that's pretty much a fucking given. But that's why I've decided I am just going to when I'm due for my judgment, I'm like, excuse me, I believed I signed up for the Zen afterlife. No, I'm Buddhist.
No, it's gonna be like
eternal enlightenment.
it's gonna be the Moon Knight shit. There's gonna be a talking hippo. The Egyptian one.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose I could make that work, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I could think of worse things. But anyway, so today we are we decided just to get together, do a little interview guest session kind of thing. I hate to call my episodes I have with people on them interviews because let's face it, you're used to how I do things, and I
Yeah,
like to think
yeah,
most of my I always like to hope that this is somebody's first episode, but at the same time, it's like I know most of my regulars are used to my rambly, like ranty nonsense. So I mean, it kind of is what it is. There's not a lot of structure here where it's like I have notes and we're going to follow these notes religiously and we're going to talk about certain things and stay on topic. So if you're here, fucking buckle up, guys. Cody is definitely an opinionated individual. A
yeah.
lot of
Well,
times we're on the same page. Occasionally we may not see quite eye to eye, but this ought to be interesting. So,
well, yeah. So
what's in your craw, brother?
yeah, I reached out to you because I've had this 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 thought, I guess, but it's bigger than a thought.
It's an invasive thought.
Just uh, just about how and where America is. And to be honest with you, I really wanted to talk it out to try to come up with a good word or a good summation of the idea. But I actually heard, and I don't know his last name, Ramasari, Vivek.
Yeah, Vivek Ramshway. I'm
That
terrible
guy.
with that stuff. Yeah, I know who you're talking
Yeah.
about.
Uh, he put it in a good sense. Um, at least he put my idea. He put a word or a couple of words to it that I was like, oh yeah, no, that makes sense. So the overarching idea is that America is in its adolescence. Like, and I would argue not just like the left, but the right as well. Both sides they're kind of in their adolescence. So the country as a whole is in its adolescence. We're a little over 200 years old as a country. It's pretty damn young. Um, and so like, all right, did you ever have like a punk phase?
Oh yeah, I that's a pretty
When was
safe.
that
Well, for
for
me,
you?
late '90s.
Like, so like how old were you in that era?
Between like 18 and 22, 23.
Bingo, thank you. Okay. I had a punk phase. My punk phase was in middle school, about halfway through sixth grade, all the way up until I'd say about like ninth, honestly. Uh, and I mean like punk. I mean like anti-flag. Like I was popping the collar because I saw him do it at Warp Tour. So popping collars was punk before it was prep, but it was prep before it was punk. I don't know. Weird.
Yeah, it's
Anyway, it's been going back and forth. But besides the point, so I mean, you know what I mean, like anti-flags. Like I was like, fuck George W. Bush, fuck Republicans, communism's great, socialism, Marxism, this is the greatest shit in the world. You know what I mean? Like, drinking the Kool-Aid. If I was a kid, like right now, AOC would be my bitch. You know what I mean? I'd be like, ooh, I love that woman. She is great. You were in your punk phase. Were you also like anti-establishment at the time?
yeah. Um, Not quite so much with. I was always more. I mean, at the time, my beliefs were considered extremely liberal, but they're much more centric by today's standards.
Yeah,
Um,
right. But at the time,
but I
very
was never
liberal.
really big into like the socialist Marxist shit. I was more like, I was more of an anarchist, honestly. But
Hmm.
I honestly, I really still am. I just don't think society's mature enough to actually handle something like that because for a true anarchist system to work, people have to take responsibility, and nobody wants to fucking do that.
Right. Yeah.
you know,
Well, you see, I mean, I'd agree anarchy was definitely a part of it. But then in high school, morphed away from thinking that communism was good the more I actually studied and learned into it. And went into more like libertarian, pretty much to the point of like ANCAP. which I would still argue is immature because I don't consider myself to be ANCAP anymore. Like I recognize that there's a point for government, albeit I want it to be very small and limited.
Yeah.
And so the reason I say that is because you had a punk phase, more anarchist, and I understand what you're saying, where you need responsibility to have an anarchy work. But um, I had the punk phase, and it was more in like adolescence. The brain isn't developed until you're about 25, right?
Yep.
So you're still figuring things out, and I'd argue you really still don't know jack shit at 25 years old. You think you do. It's probably like the eighth time in your life you think you figured everything out, and you still actually don't know shit, right?
Amen to that. I've been saying that for months. Prior to
Yeah.
25, you're kind of fucking stupid. And
Oh yeah.
you don't realize you're fucking stupid, which actually compounds the stupidity you're capable of. Because you think you
Exactly.
got some shit figured out. Meanwhile, you got 90-year-olds telling you how to live your life. And you're like, oh, yeah, that's a great idea. Thanks, Grandpa.
Hmm.
You know?
But
Yeah.
but so you can see that the left, like the leftists, and it's not you wouldn't even call it the extreme left wing anymore. You would call this more of like the left party, like the Democrat Party as a whole, is pretty much being taken over by these like progressive type ideas. And it's pretty juvenile and adolescent. And then you can turn to the Republican Party, and the Republican Party is just sitting there doing the same shit politically that the Democrats do, as far as like, oh, we're just going to throw mud and not actually do anything. We're just going to name call and act juvenile and adolescent. And so America's in its adolescence, and it's going to be pretty interesting to see how this all really plays out because, are you going to be like a Rome? Are you going to be like one of them 2,000 year plus empires, for lack of a better term? Are you going to stand the test of time, or does this great idea kind of fizzle out and all these fucking stupid ass commies fucking take over? You know what I mean? Because I mean, sometimes it's hard to tell. Because I mean, I really never thought that we would see a world or see an America where you have major corporations literally losing billions of dollars and still just shoving it in your face. Like, we don't care. Like, they're literally destroying themselves. And so it's kind of scary.
Yeah, it really is. And I do agree. I never thought things would get like this, and it almost kind of galls me because like I'm a little older than you. So it kind of lines up where it's like, yeah, I went through some of this shit where when I was younger and the stuff that was like considered really liberal at the time, like saying, hey, it doesn't matter if you're gay. That was
Right.
like some extreme shit. I have friends that are like, they've got the scars because they were in the early days of like where you could still be dragged out and beaten to death for being gay if you were in the wrong part of town.
Hmm.
And I have friends that had to deal with that shit and had to, live under that onus, and they couldn't actually be themselves and be there living like their actual quality of life was shit because they were legitimately afraid for their lives. And so I was not one of those people who's going to go, because when I was younger and that was more of an issue, like when there was not I don't even want to say the current, but when there was not a acceptance of a like gay or lesbian lifestyle, it was not something people were like, oh yeah, that's okay, that's perfectly normal. That was
Right.
that
Hmm.
was when the "you're going to hell" crowd was really vocal, and a
Right.
lot of
Yeah.
these old bastards were out there going, oh, that's a slippery slope. We let them gays start having rights, then the next thing you know, they're going to be doing X, Y, and Z. And I was one of those people. It's like, are you come on, fucking grow up. It's who you want to stick your naughty bits in or on or whatever is completely irrelevant to your worth as a fucking person. How is this going to be a slippery slope where we let gay people get married so they can be just as miserable as the fucking straight people? And
Right? Yeah. I mean, yeah, yeah.
I,
Me too. That's how I was. Like, I mean, I believed in the message that Barack Obama was selling for his first term, 2008.
oh yeah,
Like, it sounded great.
yeah, I believed him in the first term too. Didn't vote for him in the second
But
term, but
right, but just to point out, Barack Obama, even when campaigning, was saying, marriage is between a man and a woman.
yep.
So
But
people don't remember that.
no, people have very selective memories and short term. Like we have most of our society these days has a memory of a fucking goldfish. But
Yeah, it's the
actually,
internet culture.
that
5 minutes ago,
oh
they
yeah,
can't remember what happened.
30 seconds to be famous. I'm gonna go
Ah,
viral with this one. It's quick. Slap me in the nuts with that 2x4. I'm a blow up, son. But
but so would you agree that both the parties and therefore America, because I mean, what else really is America besides the federal government, right?
well, I mean, it's supposed to be the people, but unfortunately, it ain't.
Yeah, yeah, it's supposed to be the people, but I mean, even if it was working perfectly as by design, it would still be the government because the government's of the people for the people, right?
Yep. So
So,
the government is reflective of, or supposed to be reflective of the
and
society. I
and
mean,
I mean,
it's
I'll be
not.
honest with you, you got the old guard that's not the McConnells, the Pelosi's, the Feinsteins,
All the
even
dinosaurs.
even the Grassleys, the Grahams, right? Like these are
Yeah.
people that don't. But I would argue that your Gates, your Rand Paul, your AOC, your Presley, your Ilhan, I'd argue your Bobert. I would argue that these people are definitely representative of the people in their area, especially someone like a Bobert. Like Bobert represents more than just our district. Bobert represents pretty much every conservative voter that is in rural Colorado. You know what I mean? And
I
like
can see that.
and it's juvenile. Because Bobert's juvenile as fuck.
Oh
She
yeah, no.
comes out there and she just runs her mouth and does this stupid shit for show, for political theater. And it's like it's juvenile and it's dumb and it doesn't serve anybody anything. It just sows division. Like it's like, oh great. Like, I just want to know like what time is the after school fight? Is it like 3:15 p.m.? Like
Yep.
what, you know what I mean? Like cuz it feels like that's what's coming.
Yeah. I can see where you're coming from, and it's kind of mind numbing to me at this point. I've really in a lot of ways started to disengage with stuff where it's just like I don't have the fucking energy to deal with this shit. It's like here my vapid somewhat attractive broad is better than your vapid somewhat attractive broad. It's like like
Hmm.
I don't and I can't get past the way. And you're right, it's both sides, but it's like my team's better than your team, and I'm going to simp for them really fucking hard. Like, it's all very, it's
Like that's the fastest way on Twitter to blow up progressives' mind is to go like, why do you think that I agree with Trump on that? Or why do you think that I agree with whoever on the right on that? Like when you're like, actually, I didn't like that. It blows their fucking mind because they can't say the same thing.
yeah,
And that's true for a lot of people on the right too. They can't say it. They
yeah. No,
can't go.
there's
There's a flaw here.
way too many people out there. It's like, well, no, I'm on this team, so I agree with everything they think and say and do. It's like, no, no you weak-minded, like you said, juvenile fuck stain. It's like,
Yeah.
seriously, it's time to put on your big kid pants and maybe start thinking and being a little more critical and realize it's not black or white. There's not yes or no. It's not good and evil. It's for fuck's
Yeah,
sakes, use your head.
there's some nuance. Like I mean, I would think that a lot of America is is more centrist because there's a lot of people that are very disengaged in politics, but I think that is becoming a much more dangerous position to hold. Not not in the sense that, well, no, I guess yeah, in the sense that it could end up causing you direct or indirect harm, because like what we were talking about with the UK law, with that girl going to jail for calling the police officer a lesbian,
Well, she didn't even
not
call her a
not
lesbian
indicting.
directly. That's the worst part. She said, "You look like my lesbian nan." So,
Yeah,
because
so
this broad looked like her lesbian grandma, which obviously this poor little girl, well, little girl, she's like 17, whatever. This poor kid, that's still a kid in my book, who is
but I mean,
autistic
like,
and not highly functional autistic, and was apparently like out partying with some other kids and had a couple too many or whatever. And she didn't even say like you're a lesbian. She said you look like my lesbian grandma. And 7 cops came to take her away.
and yet, so the people who right now seem to be upset by this are those who were arguing for the placement of laws like this. But also, another interesting point or way to look at this is, why is that considered to be offensive? Like saying you look like a lesbian? Like, would that not be a compliment
Well, I
now?
mean, if nothing else, if you're offended by that, doesn't that say more about how you feel about lesbians than how the person who's saying it feels about lesbians?
Hmm.
You know?
And I thought that straight cis people just did not, their opinions were completely invalid right
Oh
now. Is
yeah,
that
no.
not where we're at?
Yeah, well that's a whole nother facet of things where it's like, well, why do you all of a sudden care what a heteronormative cis individual, as you like to call us? I actually that term irritates me simply because it's like if I don't get to decide what I get to call you, why the fuck do you get to decide what you get to call me? No,
Oh,
I do not acknowledge the term cis. I think that is just a really surefire way to get on my nerves if you're going to say something to me.
yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, you use the term biological.
Yeah, I am a biological male. That means I have gonads. I have a dingaling. Whatever your preferred term is? Because if you can't say, that this is normal, I'm going to assume you don't understand that penis is a natural biological term. So I don't want to run the risk of hurting your sensibilities. So we're just going to call it a Twinkie. How about that?
No, because then then they're gonna have all these like metaphors going in their head about cream filling, and then that sexual assault, and the
Uh,
cop police will get you.
okay.
I mean, that's where we're headed.
Yeah,
That's
actually,
literally where
I
we're
could see
headed.
that being the consequence. I just defaulted to Twinkie because that's what my kid called it when he was little. Um,
I'm sure that you've seen, and I don't know the lady's name, um, but allow me to steal this from Abby Libby, the platform X, pronounced Twitter. The CEO, the lady, she has come out and said freedom of speech, but not reach.
yeah, I saw
And
that.
they're literally like, like I've seen conservatives reporting that their views, their interactions are way
Oh yeah, no, me too.
down, and that would be indicative of them like trying to lure people in, right? Like with the payouts, the big payouts that they were showing people. Like, I mean, did you see the Krasensteins? Like that first payout, and I know it was like 3 months, but the Krasensteins got like over 100K.
Yeah,
And then
and that
on the
just
last
burns
month,
my
it was
ass.
still, yeah. And on the last month, I think they got like 19. It was 19 or 29.
Yeah,
It was still a crazy amount.
yeah, and you know what the
And
thing is? Those assholes show up on my timeline all the time until I muted them. I've
right,
never
and that's what
interacted
I
with
did.
them once.
Yep, I muted them because I don't block people, but
No, that's
I don't want them to be getting views off of me, which counts towards their pay.
yeah,
We
exactly.
don't even have to interact. I'm sure the interactions help, but you're right, the views make it pay. And so so they're doing that. So like yeah, that's coming. And I don't know if you know what Dennis is. Do you know what Dennis is
Um,
on Twitter?
maybe, I don't know. It's not registering at the moment, but
Okay. So you know how they say shit like Antifa's not an organization,
oh,
Antifa's
that
an
yeah,
idea.
okay, yeah,
Well, Dennis is an idea. All right. There's multiple Deny out
yeah,
there, if you will.
yes. Dennis has
Dennis's.
gotten me a few times, so
Okay, so yeah, so $8, right? $4 if you only kind of get God.
yeah.
Okay.
No, I
Well,
think I'm at about 32 right now, so
hey, look, I've had to pay Dennis 16, so it happened. Uh,
in my defense, I was tired.
well, in my defense, the first time it was a legit I got Dennis. The second time I thought it was Dennis, but it was the real person.
Uh
Yeah, so I just like underneath the real person, I was like, "Hey, Dennis, what do I do in this situation?" And he was like, "That's $8, baby." I was like, "All right," but
yeah, no, the one
but Dennis
actually
put out a good one.
I said the one that got me
A
was
good.
the Bernie one the other day. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see the Bernie one.
Yep. They tweeted an announcement that Bernie passed suddenly in his sleep.
Oh yeah, I did. I did see that. You're right.
And
Yeah, I did.
I couldn't help myself. I clicked on the link. I didn't full on Google it or anything. But I went to like, okay, I need to see more about this tweet. And then like as soon as I look at it, there's like the first 7 or 8 comments are like $8, $8, $8, $8. I'm like, motherfucker. Son of a bitch
uh,
got me again.
he put out a good one yesterday as the CEO of Twitter, and it was basically along the lines of how they're implementing AI to target words, and I can't remember what they were, all the words, but they were like ludicrous, outlandish. Like one of them was friends, like FRENS, friends.
Yeah.
And it was like, and these tweets will be completely suppressed. Like there will be no views on them whatsoever. And there's like a list of like 6 or 7 words. And somebody like got really butthurt. Somebody got really butthurt about getting got. Like was refusing to pay, and they made a comment about how, you know, when you can't tell the difference between the real thing and parody, then it's not funny anymore. And Dennis replied, "No, that's the entire point. When you see something and you can't tell if it's real, that's the entire point. That's how fucked up it is right now."
Yeah,
And,
pretty
and he's
much.
right. Dennis is right. So shout out to Dennis, but also shout out to Abby, uh, and uh, and PJ. I don't know if you know this. They have a pretty cool show called Conspiracy Pilled. Talk about really cool conspiracies, and it's really neat.
Cool. Excuse me. I'm sorry. So, yeah, no, that's I definitely I agree. I have thoughts. Um, I've well, I'm just trying to formulate them so they kind of make sense here. I've been doing that a lot lately, where I'm talking through things to myself, trying to make sense of what it is I'm thinking, and
See, that's what I wanted to do,
yeah, and
and
that's
I still bounced it off of you. Like I still had to formulate by talking with you, but like
yeah,
the concept was there. It was
yeah.
easier to
It's easier
conceptualize.
with somebody to talk about. Yeah. No, see,
Hmm.
my problem is I do that a lot, and then I go, I should have fucking recorded that. But I'm not sitting here at my desk when I'm doing this shit. I'm at work talking to myself in the kitchen, or I'm at my desk
Oh,
at
that's
work,
what.
or I'm in the car on my way home from work, or
Yeah.
it's like I
It's
got to get it. I need to get a
Just go
little
buy
like
one of those.
DVR or voice recorder thing.
Yeah, like from fucking Home Alone, one of the Talk
The
Boys.
Talk Boy, the original voice modulator. I was gonna say I should look on Temu. They pop up on everything else I think about buying that I never mention
No,
out
dude.
loud.
No, fuck that shit, dude. Fuck Timu.
Yeah, no,
I'm gonna straight up say this because I know that my mom Samantha's gonna listen to this.
Hi Sam.
So this is definitely for you, Samantha. Fuck buying shit off Timu. You're literally supporting the CCP. Fucking quit it. It's shit. It's not good shit. Fucking quit. Everybody quit it.
Oh, okay, I'll go full confession here.
Oh no.
I did actually just like 2 days ago buy a full set of ramekins and a silicone baking mat from them because it was like $6. So
You know you're gonna get it and you're gonna be severely disappointed in it.
I
Like that silicone's probably gonna burn.
am. I probably am. I know.
It's probably actually just straight up what's that called? Fentanyl.
It's a fentanyl baking mat. Everybody that tastes these cookies is gonna be fucking lit.
Bingo.
Yeah, no, I know it's such a terrible thing. It really is, but like my mother-in-law is one of those where she buys shit off of Temu, and I'm like, well, just don't buy anything electronic off of there. If you're not going to listen to me when I tell you not to do it because you're buying a bunch of shit for next to nothing. But don't buy any of their electronics.
I told her the first time she did it, I was like, Mom, I thought you didn't agree with CCP. And she was like, oh, I don't. And I was like, so don't use Temu. And she was like, oh, good point. And then she was like, oh, hey, I got this off of Temu. And I was like, yeah, I don't give a fuck. And she was like, oh, I bought you something off Temu. And I was like, send it the fuck back.
I don't want it.
I will not.
It's like the return shipping's $8. It only cost me 43 cents.
Oh, I believe it. Yeah, because you got to send it across the fucking ocean.